Welcome, friends. It is I, LostScarf, and it's time for a different kind of video. I want to talk about Deadpool. I just want to talk about Deadpool. I just saw the movie. I have read every comic of Deadpool since the beginning, over the course of my life, and I really want to see this movie. And I couldn't see it when it came out. I can barely see it now. It's really good. I want to talk about this movie. And so in the comments, everyone can talk about the movie as well, and that'd be really great there. This, of course, is a warning if you haven't seen the movie yet and you don't want to get spoiled. Obviously, don't watch this video. It's a spoiler talk video. LostScarf Spoil Talks Deadpool. I think it's the best way to go about it. And I just want to talk about the movie and how much I really liked it and I appreciated the movie. Just all the references to it and just how well they did the movie. And so, if you only know the movie and don't know the comics as much, you might learn a couple things from me talking about it then. So, Deadpool, the movie, just structurally is pretty cool. I like how there's a mix of combat and backstory. Combat and backstory, combat and backstory. And why I like that is because, well, there's always an origin story. And origin stories usually start from the beginning. And for Deadpool, his origin story is a very depressing origin story. Like, Deadpool's origin story is always a very depressing story. Like, it's always been this depressing story about how he came up. He was in some sort of, like, Weapon X kind of program. I think it was like Weapon X 2. Like, he's in the Weapon X program, but it's not the same one that made Wolverine. It's like a later program that came out. And so he's in this program, and it's a Canadian program. Sometimes Deadpool's Canadian, sometimes he's American. It really depends, because his origin changes a little bit, but this part's always been the same. He's in a Weapon X program, and he becomes basically what he is now out of that. It's to cure his cancer, and it does by being able to heal all the time, but his entire body's cancer as well, which is the problem for him, which is, not so great for Deadpool. And some of the origin of him is in the movie, but just different. Ajax is in the movie, is in the comics. Ajax is an antagonist from the comics. That is in there instead of this Killbrew guy. Killbrew is in the comics. He's not in the movie, which I believe they took out of the movie. He was going to be there, but then they just took him out. Vanessa's from the comics. Vanessa is a special character, which I don't even know if I want to spoil that, but she's actually a special character in the comics, and she is very much Deadpool's true love. Like, they love each other a lot, and it's really unfortunate what happens to Deadpool. Like, that backstory is the same in the comics. Deadpool and Vanessa love each other very much. He gets cancer, so he leaves her. He leaves her so she doesn't get to see that, and so he goes into the Weapon X program so that he can cure the cancer, he hopes. And he ends up, well, curing it sort of, but not really. But he never goes back to her. He just goes and becomes Deadpool, and he gets kind of crazy like that and does a lot of stuff and gets crazy. And eventually he does catch up with Ajax and kills Ajax. He does do that in the comics, but it's done very differently. It's done extremely differently in the comics, of course. And this is the thing I liked about the movie. The movie did some things, like, they took a lot of references from the comics, but they were their own story as well. What was also interesting is a lot of the reference material for Deadpool is mostly from the first parts of Deadpool, like the first comics of Deadpool. This is mostly it. Not the New Mutant stuff, but like when he got his own comic, this is mostly from there. Blind Al is from the first Deadpool comic. Like, she's from the first one, Weasel's from the first one, but Weasel's capacity is different. Weasel's the bartender. The bartender is Weasel, and he's just different. He's not a bartender in the comics. He is Deadpool's sidekick, but he's like a tech guy that gives him weapons, and he gives Deadpool's teleportation technology, I believe. I can't remember right now. But he is a source of a lot of things for Deadpool, but Deadpool bullies him a lot in the comic. I like that he's on more equal ground with Weasel in the movie than in the comics. The movie does a very good job of just taking little things from the comics, but doing them very well. And what I really like is that Deadpool is his own Deadpool. I really like that a lot. He is a mix of the different comic book Deadpools and even the game Deadpools, but he's his own guy. He doesn't have the multiple voices in his head. He does break the fourth wall. He makes references to a lot of things. We do see he's a big fan of B. Arthur, though. He does wear a B. Arthur shirt at one point. That's his favorite person ever. He thinks she's the sexiest woman in Hollywood. She's dead now, unfortunately. I'm pretty sure, right? I think Betty White's the only one alive anymore. But he's a big fan of the Golden Girls, with B. Arthur as his favorite. And so I like that they kept references like that. And what was interesting is a lot of nods to Liefeld and I can't pronounce the other guy's name. The two people who created Deadpool, there's references to both of them in the movie, which is really cool. Liefeld gets referenced maybe 2 or 3 times. He's on the Deadpool board. He's a mercenary that gets mentioned. And he's also got a street sign, if I remember correctly. And this or whatever, I can't say his name correctly. They have a street sign for him as well. There's also a Parker Boulevard because Deadpool is like kind of a bit of I don't want to say a lift from Spider-Man. There's always been references to him looking like Spider-Man, which is why that rain scene later on in the movie where they're in the alley with the rain and Weasel says, "Go get him, Tiger," is such a heavy reference to Spider-Man. Like, when she's out in the rain, I thought he was going to rescue her like Spider-Man does, Mary Jane, but it didn't happen like that. But you got a sense of that, which was very interesting. And there's just references to things he says from different comics, which is really cool. But I just like is that he is Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool. That's really what he is. And he does that very well. Ryan Reynolds was perfect for Deadpool. What they did to him in the Origins movie was not so great. But in this one, he's the perfect Deadpool for sure. And I just liked all the references they did to Ryan Reynolds. But let's just go down the movie really quick, how I felt about it. Like, the opening scene with all the cars and everyone getting killed and everything was really cool. Like, I was surprised by how gory, but not too gory, it is the second it starts getting gory when people start dying. It wasn't too much. It's an R, but it wasn't ridiculous, which I'm glad. I'm glad it wasn't over the top. I'm glad there's some gore here, but it's not too much. So he kills all these guys in a cool looking fashion. Like, the taxi scene was pretty funny. I like that. And then, of course, he takes all those guys out. And then when it's him and Francis, him and Ajax, when he's just beating them up, that's really fun. Oh, the 12 bullets, that entire scene was really great. This just shows off how good Deadpool is, but also how crazy he is, and how weird he is, and how odd he is. Because he's talking to the camera, he's shooting all these guys, he's talking to his enemies. The movie does a very good job of being Deadpool. This is what I appreciate about it. It really is a Deadpool movie. And it was great how it just didn't start with the origin story, how it mixed the origin story throughout the movie. I thought that was really good because that's how it had to work out. Because it'd be really boring and depressing if you just started it out as the Wade Wilson story into Deadpool. By being Deadpool, Wade Wilson, Deadpool, Wade Wilson, Deadpool, Wade Wilson, I thought that was much better, and it just did it really well. I appreciated that a lot. And just a lot of the quips and references going throughout the entire movie were just really good. I just like that mix there, and I just like the interaction with Colossus, because he doesn't do anything with Colossus really in the comics. Colossus in the movie, I really liked him because he's just this bigger figure. He's like this big brother figure who just believes in other people. Like, I really like that, because the way they have Colossus here is he's not invincible, but he's really tough to deal with. Like, he's a big metal guy, and he can take a lot of punishment. And what I liked about that is we just see him be this guy. He just takes a lot of hits and everything, and he's just nice. And this is kind of what you have with a Superman kind of character, like a super character who can just handle a lot of punishment. Is they ignore a lot of stuff that come their way because they can just take it. It doesn't really matter to them. And that's what happens with him and Deadpool. Deadpool can't do anything to him. Deadpool fighting Colossus is hilarious because Deadpool can't do a dang thing to him, but Colossus just very gingerly just takes Deadpool with him. He doesn't really force himself on Deadpool. He's just a really nice older guy, which is very interesting there. And when he fights Angel Dust, that's the muscle chick, when he fights her and gets his butt kicked by her, I really like that because we see Colossus be this dominating presence, and then he gets in a fight and gets rocked. That was really cool. I thought that was a nice touch there. And also just a nice touch of how he blocks himself from being able to see her when she loses, like when her shirt opens up. That was a nice touch, but poor guy when he takes it in the rocks. His Deadpool tries to do that and does nothing with it. But when she punches him because she's got super strength, oh my god. Ooh, the pain of that. But the movie's just done really well as a Deadpool movie. Like, it's not a Marvel movie necessarily because, one, it's not made by the same group. Like, it's not made by them. It's I believe it's Fox because they own all the X-Men stuff, right? So Deadpool's in that camp. So they're not done in the same light that Marvel has been doing their movies. Marvel's movies are more, of course, more comical, fun, and very adventurous and stuff like that. It's really good. Deadpool has a mix of that, but he's also a mix of just brutal and dark and sad and brooding. And there's a little bit of that in the movie, mostly in the Wade Wilson side of things. Not really in the Deadpool side, but the Wade Wilson side. Because that's always been a thing about Deadpool from the beginning is he's this silly, ultra-violent character, but he's always had this darkness inside of him. And sometimes it comes out in very horrible ways, or sometimes it comes out in ways that makes you just feel for Deadpool. There are times like that in the original comics where you're like, wow, Deadpool is just, he's seen some things and he's really messed up and you feel bad for him. And sometimes he is just an unrepentant son of a bitch. He does very bad things that are not okay, but you kind of root for him anyway just because the good kind of outweighs the bad with him. And it really depends on who's writing Deadpool. At the time, there's so many different versions of Deadpool in certain ways. How he interacts with the fourth wall, the voices in his head, whether he's talking to himself and that's it, whether he's talking to the narrator, or he's talking to multiple voices in his head. There's things like that. How he interacts with other people, it really depends on the writer. And the one thing is his mythos, or is it pathos? What's going on in the back of his head really depends on the writer. For some people, Deadpool wants to be a hero, depending on the writer. He wants to be a hero, and life doesn't let him do it. This is the first couple volumes of Deadpool, where Deadpool wants to be a hero. He believes in it. This is what he wants to do. This is what he wants to be. He's tired of being the bad guy. But the world needs people willing to kill. The world needs people who are willing to kill the bad guys because the superheroes are not willing to do it. And because they don't, there are some bad guys who are just too bad. And so Deadpool does that. Repeatedly, he's put in situations where he wants to be the good guy, but he finds out he's the good guy by killing someone. That happens to him multiple times in the early comics, and it's done very well, and you feel for him. But later versions of Deadpool, he either has given up on that, or at a point, he wants to be a hero again, but only to be loved. Like, he only wants to be a hero because he wants people to like him. And so, it's interesting to see Ryan Reynolds' version of Deadpool. That is, he wants revenge, and he's very much haunted by Vanessa. He's very much haunted by... He wants to be cured. He wants to be what he used to be for her. He doesn't want to be this ugly dude because he's scared that he'll scare her off. And in the end, she's okay with it, which is a nice thing. Deadpool getting the girl is something that never really happens in the comics. He gets the girl for a while. This is the thing. He does get the girl for a while in the comics. Every now and then, a girl will throw him a bone, or he does enough to earn at least some fun time with a girl in the comics. But he never really gets a girl, except Vanessa, until life tears her away from him in the most horribly horrible way. And I really don't want that to happen to her in the comics, the movies, but it might in the second or third movie, because I'm assuming Deadpool's going to do more, because they're already planning on doing Deadpool 2 with Cable, which I'm so pumped about. But Ajax he's a cyborg in the comics. He's just a different thing. But he's done so well in this movie. He's just this guy that doesn't really care. And I thought it was just done really well. I really liked a lot of scenes in the movie. Deadpool getting effed up was pretty good. Like when he breaks all his limbs against Colossus was pretty cool. And when he loses his hand and regrows it, that's something we actually never really see in the comics. We don't really see it grow like that. We never see it slowly grow. We always see his stuff rapidly grow back. Like what was it? I think it was volume 3. I can't remember right now. When Deadpool completely dies, when he gets destroyed in a hail of gunfire, when all that's left is his middle finger when he's flipping someone off and then that gets destroyed, when he's just a pile of goo. That happens in one of the comics. He's just full on dead. And then he comes back. It just all grows back into him. And that happens in the comics for one of the versions of him. And so we never really see him slowly go back. We always see it just instantaneous. Like, at least I can't think of any times when it slowly goes back. It's always been instant for him. Or at least it takes a little bit and then it happens. But never seen that tiny baby hand thing. That was silly. By the way, there were a lot of dick jokes in Deadpool, and that's nothing new. There's always been a lot of dick jokes for Deadpool. That was interesting. As far as action was really good, I didn't really feel it was too gory. Like, that was a good level there. There's a lot more boobs than I expected it to be in this movie. I think it's just because they had the rated R they want for boobs. Because it's not really a thing in comics, but then again, comics can't really do that. Gore happens a lot in comics, but it's always, when you get to the boob part, comics shy away from that a little bit because they get in trouble for that, but not for violence. It's always been a weird double standard in that way. But I've been really random with talking about this movie. It's just a good movie. Just talking about the movie as a movie, not as a comic reference, although there's so many good references to the comics with the movie. It's just a solid movie on its own. I feel it's a pretty good action movie. It's a pretty good origin movie. I feel like you don't have to be a Deadpool fan to like the movie, but you have to understand it's going to be a little darker, a little dirtier than the Marvel movies, because this is the X-Men side of things. This is a whole different area. And those movies have not really been as lighthearted either. The X-Men movies have always been more serious. They've had some lighthearted parts, but they've been more serious, while the Marvel movies have been a lot more lighthearted with serious elements. And so Deadpool, of course, from that group has been more like that, and it's just done well because he's pretty funny in it. I like all of the self-deprecation towards Ryan Reynolds in this. They make references to Blade. They make multiple references to Green Lantern, if you didn't catch that. And they make references to just Ryan Reynolds more than once. They reference how Ryan Reynolds is just a good-looking guy, or how he's a great guy. They also show us People magazine, where he's the sexiest man in the world, or on America, I can't remember which one. They also have a reference to being bitten by a champagne. In Cable and Deadpool comic, I remember this. He says he's a mix of Ryan Reynolds and a champagne, which is a funny thing there. That's where it's from Deadpool and Cable, which is great. I'd like it if he actually makes that line to Cable again in their comic if that happens. That'd be pretty cool there. Just all the Ryan Reynolds stuff was funny. The Wolverine stuff was also funny. What's interesting is if you saw there's like a little toy at a point. I think it's after he gets his cancer or before he gets his cancer. They have a little figurine, which is Origins, X-Men Origins, Deadpool. It's that freaking thing. Like, you see it where he's like Baraka, Deadpool. Like that's in the movie. There's a little figurine of that. We also see it just referenced to Pula Vision. We get to see that when he has the knife in his head, which is showing that he can have that insanity. It's just that he has to take damage to his head for it to happen, which is very interesting there as well. Because Deadpool, how insane he is, really depends on the writer. Sometimes he's very cognizant, and he's a little weird. And sometimes he is way too damn insane, where you have Pula Vision, which depending on the writer happens or doesn't happen, where he sees things differently through his eyes. It's kind of like the Pyro, how the Pyro sees the world, how it's different and everything. Then there's also the multiple voices in his head. We don't see that in this movie. We might see in other movies. Maybe not at all. I'm fine either way. I like the multiple voices because they can be pretty funny, but if they don't do them, that's fine. But it's pretty interesting that they didn't do it at all. I think it might have been out of place if they did it, because there's enough of him breaking the fourth wall, talking to the camera. That'd be kind of weird any other way like that. What would have been interesting, I think, is if he effed with the fourth wall a little bit. If he, we had the gum on the camera, but if he maybe grabbed the boom mic or something, that would have been curious. Maybe that might be a stinger in the future. Speaking of stingers, like that stinger was pretty good with the, what's that movie? With Matthew Broderick movie? I can't remember the name of that movie right now, but the reference to that was cool. And just Cable's coming. Cable's going to be in the second movie. And I like that a lot, because what I like is Deadpool gets the girl at the end, and the next movie's going to have Cable, and Cable's a time traveler, and maybe they'll do time traveling or world traveling, which means maybe Vanessa she'll be in the second movie a little bit, but she won't be a big part of the second movie. I'm hoping for that. I'm hoping he keeps the girl, because Vanessa is his true love, even from the comics. I'm hoping she stays, and they don't just get rid of her retroactively, like a lot of movies have done. Like, sequels a lot of times will keep status quo by getting rid of past things. They'll get rid of old girlfriends, or they get rid of this and that. Like, old reference, Karate Kid. Daniel gets a new girlfriend every movie because the previous girl, it didn't work out for whatever reason. Other movies do the same thing, where the hero gets a love interest and then gets a new love interest in the next movie. Like, it happens every time. And I would hate for that to happen to Deadpool. Deadpool's had a lot of love interests, though. Vanessa was the one true, but then he had Siren for a while. Things did not go well because of certain things. Siren was a big one for him for a while. I can't remember some other ones. I don't think he ever got with Typhoid Mary. I think he fought her, but he was flirting with her a lot. There's some other characters he got with. I can't remember off the top of my head. But Vanessa was the big one. Siren. There was a cowgirl that he got with for a little bit. I can't remember her name right now. There's another girl. I can't remember their names right now. I can't remember the name of the cowboy girl, which was a pretty cool character. She's basically a super strength mutant chick as well, but she's not Angel Dust. I think her name's Angel Dust. The strength chick, I'm pretty sure his name is Angel Dust, if I remember correctly from the comics. But what's weird is I can't remember her name right now. Teenage whatever Warhead, the Teenage Warhead, Nega Sonic Teenage Warhead. Her. I like the references towards her, but what's interesting is that's not what she is in the comics. She has more of Speedball's powers. Is that Speedball? Whatever his name is. The guy who he's got kinetic energy, but he's not really Gambit. He just bursts things to move things like she does in the movie. She's got more of his powers. I'm fine with that because she did some cool things in the movie, and I like that they balanced out where they had the older brother and then the younger sister kind of dynamic going on there. Well, he's bringing her under his wing with Colossus. Like Colossus is bringing her under his wing, and just she's his trainee and stuff. I like that. I like that. I thought it was a pretty cool interaction. How they don't really interact with each other that much though, but I like that that's a thing there. I just like the movie in general. I thought they did it really well. It's a Deadpool movie. It's definitely a Deadpool movie, and a lot of people enjoy it. I enjoyed it a lot, and some people might not. I don't know how, but they might not. Like, maybe if you were looking for more of a lighthearted Marvel movie, maybe you wouldn't like this as much because it's more violent, but it has some funny bits to it, a lot of funny bits to it. Like, when he gets his costume, it was very interesting to see he's wearing all white and then it's getting red, so eventually, like, okay, I'll just wear a red costume because getting tired of having to wash the blood out. And Blind Owl, I think I already mentioned Blind Owl. Blind Owl, like when she's at the laundromat, I thought that was going to be it. I thought that was going to be the only reference to Blind Owl where she just says that. But the fact he lives with her in the movies was a surprise because that's what happens in the comics. I did not expect that to happen. Of course, she's more of a hostage in the comics, though. Deadpool's not the nicest person. It's a weird love-hate relationship with her where she's his hostage. Very odd. Very odd thing. I think it was it's either issue 4 or issue 6 where it hits a really weird point where she's in the box or the room where it's this weird torture chamber area that Deadpool puts her. And it's just, you're like, holy crap, Deadpool's effed up. This is a weird thing about Deadpool, how he is with that. What I also like is how he's sensitive about his mask. We don't see it a lot in the movie. We only see it for one point when Vanessa wants to take the mask off, where he's like, he doesn't really want her to. That was interesting. But overall, good movie. Very good movie. Very good, pretty violent movie. Oh, the year of Vanessa and Wade Wilson was pretty funny. Them celebrating the holidays and just going at it. That was a pretty funny scene. I thought that whole thing was funny as hell. That was pretty great. And yeah, it's just a very good movie. I really liked it a lot, and a lot of good scenes. Oh, Bob from Hydra. Bob from Hydra. You might notice if you when he's fighting guys, and one of the guys he's like Bob, and then he knocks him out, and doesn't kill him. Bob from Hydra is from, if I remember correctly, Cable and Deadpool, and Bob from Hydra is just a low-ranking minion of Hydra that Deadpool fights, but at first he fights him and he knocks him out, and then he eventually makes him basically his minion. Bob from Hydra is eventually Deadpool's minion. Like, he's his sidekick that does stuff for him on occasion, or gets forced into doing stuff for him on occasion, to be honest. And there's a lot of hijinks there. So Bob from Hydra is just hilarious to see him there, and Deadpool just knocks him out, and as far as we can tell, he doesn't kill Bob. He never kills Bob. Bob gets hurt a lot because of Deadpool, but it doesn't look like he kills him, and I hope he didn't kill him. And we see him knock him out, so I would assume he didn't kill him. Like, why would he kill his buddy? Deadpool's very curious in that if you're his friend, he's sort of loyal to you in a very not the best kind of way. Like, it's really weird where if you're his friend, and sometimes he will go to bat for you, but a lot of times he'll use you, and also he's got no problem with you getting hurt. Weasel's a victim of that. Blind Owl's a victim of that. Bob is a big victim of that. The one person who's very much I really want to know how they deal with this in the second movie is Deadpool and Cable. Deadpool was an antagonist for Cable when he first came out because he was paid to either kill or capture Cable, and they fought each other quite a bit in the origin of Cable. I mean, the origin of Deadpool. Not origin, but in the original, like the first time Deadpool comes out, when he's in the New Mutants, Deadpool is an antagonist. Eventually he becomes a protagonist in his own comic. And then eventually they get paired up in Cable and Deadpool, which is the most, or Deadpool and Cable, I can't remember how it was named. That is the most amazing pairing. They work together very well, and there's always this weird brothership about them. Like, they start out as antagonists, then there's this weird neutral territory between the two of them, and then eventually they become basically brothers. They're basically brothers that care about each other, but they still work to their own ends. Deadpool is very selfish in the Deadpool and Cable comics. Sometimes he's not so selfish to help out Cable because, they're pretty much, he's the closest thing Deadpool has to a brother when it gets deep into that comic. Just because of the way they work together and how much they risk their lives for each other in the comics. And so I hope when they do the second movie, just they have someone who just works really well with Ryan Reynolds, and that there is this weird potential, like there's got to be a little bit of sexualness to them. Not exactly. Like it's weird. There is a scene in the Cable and Deadpool comic. I'm talking about this way too much. Cable and Deadpool comic where Deadpool gets knocked out and he's dreaming about rubbing WD-40 on Cable. He's dreaming about that in front of like three hot chicks that tied him up, and they're like, "Whoa, okay." Like we did not see that coming about Deadpool. And so Deadpool, to prove that he's not into Cable, I think pulls down his pants to show the ladies that he's all about the ladies. And if I remember correctly, I think it was cold at the time, or something happens where that does not work out for Deadpool either. I can't remember who the antagonists were. It's like three ladies antagonize him at a point. I think they're actually from the Snake group, if I remember correctly. I think it's Sidewinder and Copperhead, and I can't remember correctly right now, and Diamondback or Diamondhead, whatever they're called. I'm pretty sure it was three females from the Snake group, which I can't remember what the hell the Snake group is called. Wait, from Hydra. Are they from Hydra? I can't remember right now if the Snake girls are from Hydra or a different crew. Can't remember right now. But when he deals with them, that happens in Cable and Deadpool, which is a funny scene. I just really hope that whoever they get is going to be great there, and I just hope there's not too much for Vanessa. That would lead to her getting killed. I really don't want Vanessa to die. I want there to be at least one version of Deadpool where things work out for him. Like, for now, until the next big mayhem. But I want certain overall things to just stay for him, because Deadpool never has a happy ending. He always has a lot of just messed up things happening to him. And that was a funny thing with Weasel in the movie, where he's like, just by the way Deadpool looks, like, he's going to die alone, and he should die alone for the sake of everyone. It's like, Jesus Christ. Like, that's a thing. But just the hope of at least this version of Deadpool having at least some happiness would be great. And if there's anyone who could see past what happened to him, it would be Copycat. I mean, it would be Vanessa. It would be Vanessa. And she did in the comics. Like, she loved him a lot in the comics. Of course, there's a lot of things about her in the comics as well, which gets a lot of mix-ups here and there as well. Deadpool is a very complicated life and origin, and then, of course, depending on the writer, how much more complicated it gets. That happens with any comic book character, how complicated they get, really. And I'm just glad there's a movie, and I'm interested to see what references to the movie the comic makes, and if the comic makes if the next movie makes any more. Well, it's gonna make plenty more references to the comics, of course, but I like that it's a mix of a lot of different comics that get referenced throughout all the whole dang thing. And just as a movie on its own, it was very entertaining, very funny, very good action, really good action. The action was top notch. The music was good, the comedy, everything was good. It's a very good movie. Is it the greatest movie ever? Hell no. But it's a really good movie, and it is a very good Deadpool movie. They did a great job there, and I'm happy I saw it. And I really want to know what you guys think, and what you thought of, if you didn't know any of these references I'm talking about, what you think of all those things, because this was a fun movie, and I'm glad I saw it. And next time I'll do one of these, it'll probably be for Superman versus Batman, probably. But that'll be more reactionary, because I've read a lot of Batman Superman, but there's too many comics. There are just too many comics to know when it comes to Batman Superman, so I won't be able to reference it as well. Like, I know a lot of things, but you probably know a lot of things as well. And I probably couldn't talk about it as extensively as I talk about with Deadpool at all, because I've read all of Deadpool. But, yeah, there you go. So if I do this again, it'll be for Batman Superman. There you go. Spoiler talk for Deadpool. Very enjoyable movie. Really good. So, yeah, we'll do this again in the future, and it'll just be for the big ones that I really enjoy. I'll probably do this for Marvel movies as well, just comic book movies. I think that'll be it. And if game movies ever do good, game movies, I don't think they'll ever do good. I really wish. If Warcraft fails, games just have to stop trying to make movies. I have no interest in how the Assassin's Creed movie is going to do, because I don't think it's good. I think they'll try to do well, but I don't have a lot of faith in it. It is the Warcraft movie. If the Warcraft movie fails, the only other chance is if Blizzard does a Pixar-level movie. Like, that's the only faith I got left in video game movies. That's it. Because It's Blizzard. Blizzard tries to do a good job with their cutscenes. As you've always, if you've ever seen a Blizzard cutscene, you know it's always been pretty good. They're always been impressive. If they can do that with a movie, that'd be great. And if this fails, Overwatch Pixar movie would be amazing because it already with the trailers they've done in just Pixar level. Oh my god, I would love to see a movie on that. I really would. I would love to see a single player to Overwatch. The fact it's only multiplayer, I just would love to see single player. Just that would be great. But enough about Overwatch. It's about Deadpool. So there you go. That is the video for just spoiler talking Deadpool. I had fun talking. Hope you had fun listening and watching. Well, not really watching. I'm just right here, but listening. And make comments, everybody. What do you think? See you later.